Matthew 25:31 to 46 is one of Jesus' last interesting discourses. He talks about himself as a king coming in judgment and in justice. He talks about coming to rule the world, and he talks about separating sheep from goat nations and sheep people from goat sheep people. What does he anchor this on? What is his rationale? It's on judgment and on justice. Number one, this wonderful discourse teaches us that we are going to have to give account for how we live upon the earth. We have right now a humanistic system of self-rule. If it feels good, do it. No, we didn't create ourselves upon the earth. Whoever is our creator, we know who he is. King Jesus is going to come, and we are going to have to be answerable for our actions and how we looked after the environment and how we looked after our world, and whether we left it in the condition that he expected us to. But number two, and very importantly, he stresses about justice, economic justice, about equity, about oppression, in a time and in a season where we have seen so much financial hardship, where we have seen so many people displaced like never before in our world, homelessness, where our penal systems and people in prison are rotting away, in a time where we've seen so much racial oppression and ethnic difficulties. Jesus calls us to justice, to practice justice. And so he tells us that people come to him and they say, we know you, we are of you. And he says, no, I don't know you. He says, when I was in prison, you never visited me. When I was naked, you never clothed me. When I was hungry, you never fed me. And we will say, well, when were you in prison? And we didn't even see it. We didn't even know it. He says, in as much as you didn't do it for this other one, then you didn't do it for me. In as much as you did it for the least, then you did it for me. And so sheep people are those who would respond to the crisis of humanity's suffering in a way that God would respond to. You see, we say we're sons of God, but sons don't just inherit wealth, they inherit their father's burdens. So what Jesus was saying was this, that if you don't respond to situations of hardships around you, of crisis around you, of terrible things that are happening to people the way I would respond to it, then I don't know you, because you don't have my nature. But if you have my nature, then you would respond in a gracious, loving, compassionate way that I would respond. I may tell you of the story of an old man in Kwameta, Central Region, where in Ghana, where I come from. Last Christmas, we visited, as we normally do, with a Christmas party for a couple of thousand children and Christmas hampers for the aged. Simple things like rice and fish and oil and tomatoes for people who wouldn't normally be able to afford it. And they knocked on this old man's house, and it turned out that he hadn't come out of his room for several days. He was on his own, lonely and hungry. And when we gave him the hamper and he looked inside, he said, oh, is it Christmas? But didn't you know? There's tinsel, there's carols. But he interpreted Christmas as an act of love. It was then and only then that he recognized it was Christmas. This Christmas, let people realize it's not about the holly and the jolly. It's about the gift of love that Christ gives through you and through me.